Here is a new tutorial on how to do a box with a hole in it. So you could start with a box like this, and we could make a copy by pressing Alt and scaling it. And now we could use a boolean, so we could type boolean difference, subtract from this one, right click, and this one, right click. So this is one way of doing it. It might not always be the most prettiest way. Another way of doing a box with or without a hole is to use a curve, a 2D shape, such as a rectangle. So you can draw it like this, or you could type a rectangle, enter, and you could draw it like this. What you could also do is ask for rounded, and what it does is that it lets you draw one, and at the end you can even do a rounding. And to make this 3D, so this curve could actually be drawn in Illustrator, in AutoCAD, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a rhino curve. And the command is called extrude CRV, extrude curve. This is like 2D to 3D. Make sure solid is turned to yes. Voila. So now if we had a curve inside this, we select both and go extrude curve. Now it would create a hole. If it's snapping, this is the object snap. You can press Alt to temporarily disable the object snap. And if you want a frame, you go Control Shift E. It's like center selected or zoom extend. Yeah, so using the same technique, we could draw a shelf with holes on it. So I've already done a render of it, but I'll bring it in. So to bring an image or a drawing in Rhino, you type picture. If you're using version 5, you have to type picture frame. But in V6 or 7, it's picture. So this is the one I was about to do. So I could bring this, and then it asks you to draw the rectangle, and you just draw it. As you can tell, this is an image that I found online. So one way to draw this is to do rectangle. I'll just do a little bit of it and draw one here. Then you can right click to do a new one. You could start it exactly at the same location. This is great if you're going to cut it or fabricate it. If not, I actually like to have a bit of light. It looks more real when you do, you can use the tracking. It looks more real when you do a render. Voila, I'll do another one here. And maybe one more here. Okay. Just for the demonstration, I'll hide the backdrop. I'll delete. And now we can use a tool called offset. The distance is up to you, and you want to offset this one, and it asks you inside or outside. So if you think it's too much, you can click here and change it. In my case, it looks okay. So left click, right click to redo the offset, left click, right click. Voila. When this is done, you can select the whole thing, extrude curve, and then come here and press Alt so there's no snapping. To make it more interesting, you could just move some in and some out like we saw on the drawing. Voila. And if you want to test it, you can just go render and look at it. To go to Modo, as you know, we just select the whole thing, mesh, delete the solid, save version 5, and you can watch the shell for the coffee table to render in Modo. And you'll get a render. I just made one yesterday like this. So this is the exact same one that I brought in Modo. I put a plane, I put another plane that I rotated, and I just took the default gray and I made it a little bit whiter, sorry. And you see I left space. I think it looks more natural. Voila. So here is another way of making holes, and we'll be building a shelf with hole. So first of all, if we click here, we get 4 views. Those one are just orthogonal flat views, and I could bring in any view an item here called backdrop. So I click here, backdrop item. This is if you want to bring a photo you want to trace or your own drawing. So you click here, add clip, load image, and we could bring this, and now the image is here. And if you go back, you can make it transparent, you can change the view. Here I'm okay with it, so I'll maximize this. And here we have an empty layer. So if I delete this one, to create an empty layer is N. So I'll go N, and then I'll use the cube. But because you're on an empty layer, it will create inside. And because this view is flat, has no depth, it would actually create, it will actually do a plane. And if you go Q to drop, we can start a new one in the same layer. We could snap to it, but it doesn't really matter. Q, so I'll go like this, another one. Voila. And one last one. Perfect. So now I'm going to hide my backdrop, and we can see. So what we draw is actually flat. It's a polygon, but it has no thickness. To add thickness, to create the offset, we can go in polygon and select them one by one, you see. And I can move them. I could go W, move them if I want a bit of space in between. Could do things like this. But here what I want to do, it's shift click all of them and press B. And B here, it's the bevel, but it'll do like an offset. If I use the red, I don't even have to use the red. I can click anywhere, it'll be the red. And you see it'll go inside. So that's how, sorry, my mouse is not behaving well. Undo, Control Z, let's redo it. Voila. Mine went inside a little bit, so I can go 0 here. Let's just use this. Don't know why I did this. Voila. Q to drop the tool, and now I can go delete. And to add, I'll remove the polygon to go back to object mode. And to add thickness in the basic here, there's a thicken tool. And you click anywhere, and then you use the blue. And it looks like I taper them. So I'll undo a little bit more. Voila. Let's do one at a time. B. Voila. I don't know what I did. Delete. Then here, B. So it is better, I think, to use the red. And if you do them one by one, they can have different thickness. Voila. Now I just need to delete. So delete, select this one, remove the polygon, and let's go thicken. And now I'm good. Now you might think it's one layer, so how can I move them? if you go in polygon and you double click, it would select all of the connected polygon. So that's how you can do it. You could also go here, go W. If your center is off, you can go edit, center to bounding box center. That's how you reset it. And what we could also do here, if let's say I want all of them to be on multiple layer, you right click and you unmerge mesh. That's how you would do it. And then I just took a plane and I did a render. So you know how to do this. I think the only thing I did, if I remember well, I duplicated this one and I rotated it like this at 90 degree, and I move it back. Yeah, and then I think it was way further, but then I grab all of my cube and I made it one material cube, and I make it way wider like this. And maybe I changed to area light, I forgot, but that was basically it. Voila. So we'll learn how to model a paperclip. If using SolidWorks, if you need to, let's say from the top plane, bring a sketch, an image, you sketch first like I just did on the top plane, then you go insert, tools, sketch tools, sketch picture, tools, sketch tools, sketch picture, and you give him after your JPEG or PNG, and as you can tell, it brings the image. So I can say OK. If you want to resize, you can just double click here, and now we could roughly trace this image. So line tool, and here we'll do a fillet, so we can just go roughly like this. Voila, L to finish the drawing, and you could escape like this. Voila. If you want to get rid, it's here, the image, so you can go delete. And now we're left with the sketch. So let's reopen the sketch. Here, for the cross section to go around, we'll have to do some fillet. So much bigger, maybe even one, maybe even two. Let's try that. I think one is too big. Let's try. Yeah, so 0.8. Voila. Okay, the next one we can do 0.7. And the following one we could do 0.55. Perfect. So you have to remember that there's not much room here, so we're going to do a second sketch perpendicular. So usually I recommend to start on the center so you can tell where this is, because now if I go front or right, I can tell I'm a little bit off. So I drew this a bit further. I could drag this back. That's one way of doing it. Or we can just shift click the line and the point, and we can go feature plane, and this will make a plane perpendicular to that point. If I would have started at the center, I would not have to do this, but here I did not. Sketch on that plane, Control 8, and it should be this point, but double check. Yeah, this one. So circle now, and we can make a little circle like this. Escape. and we can go sweep. The cross section is this, and the path is this one. Now, this is a great method if you're gonna have a non-circular path. Let me show you. Actually, not this one. We're gonna this one, because here we can actually almost do any shape you want. So I'll do a dent here, trim, and I'll go like this. Now if I escape, as you can tell, the new shape worked. But usually you don't have that level of detail in a paperclip, so what I could do, it's I'll delete the sweep and show you another way of doing it. It was actually much easier, especially if you know that it'll be a circular. So you only need one path, you don't even need that plane. And you can go sweep and you just say circular profile. Then you give him the diameter. I'm really not sure, we'll try. Path. Yeah, so 0.2 might be a hair too big, but we'll say okay. Voila. If we are going to do a render of this, and then you might want to do a tiny fillet here. And those ones should be pretty small. Maybe even smaller than this. Actually, I kind of like the blending here. Usually you would not get a weld here, but you get the point. We could bring this into Modo, but if you want to do a quick still, you can go View Modify, rotate about Scene 4, so that's good. That's for rendering. And you can also do here perspective to get some perspective. And now that we have this, we can bring some light. So I'll go Scene, just basics, and just the regular one, double click. Then I'll find an angle that I like, more like here. And finally, we'll give it some sort of a chrome, metal, chrome, this one. Voila. And we'll press render tool. If you don't get this, you have to go tools, add-ins. You only have to do this once and enable photo view with a light version of Modo. And then we can go preview window. So here is a ref preview. So a photo view 360 or Modo. To get the final, click on final. And now Modo kicks in. You could also save this part and open Modo. So here is the final render using Modo in SolidWorks. And we could make it glow with the bloom. There's different things we could do here. And we could just save it as a JPEG or something.